On this episode of Scammer Stories, a former law enforcement officer tries to convince his mother that she's not talking to retired United States Army General Mark Milley, who served as the 20th chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. It's so interesting to me when even someone with Nate Cram's background can't convince a stubborn loved one. Nate even got social catfish to make a call with hard evidence proving it was a scam. I'll put a link to that in the show notes. In the video, she looks like it's soaking in, but it's like so many other addictions. It just doesn't stick. Let's get to the story now from Nate, who says life was pretty normal until the pandemic hit.
I think she had nothing better to do than to sit at home, watch Hallmark Channel and drink wine all day. And I think drinking wine all day and sitting, and not socializing, because she's a very social person, I think that affected her a little bit. And so she'd socialize online. She said she was not looking for anyone. And I can kind of vouch for that. She never really was interested in getting into, she was never looking, as far as I knew. Seemed kind of done with relationships and just wanted to ride out the rest of her retirement and her life, just hanging out with her friends. And
her first fake romance was actually a colonel, or what she thought was a colonel.
Good old Facebook, they would hit her up, and he got like 24,000 or something from her. By the way, my daughter and I had to go back on all of her messages and find all this stuff out. She wasn't willing to admit to any of it.
Yep, they become liars. My mom became a liar big time.
Huge liars. And I mean, like, really, really brazen about it.
How did you get the heads up that something was even happening then?
It started with her calling me up and asking me to borrow $2,000. And I'm like, well, yeah, I mean, she never asked us for money before, like ever in my life. She's got a good retirement. It's in a pension, thank God. So she can't take it all out at once, or otherwise that had been gone. I said, well, yeah, I would give you $2,000, but what's it for? Are you okay? I mean, is there something medically wrong? Why would you need money? And she said, well, there's this guy I've been talking to online. I'm like, oh no. And she's like, no, he's a general. I'm like, Mom, at the sheriff's department, we used to get these calls, and I'm familiar with them. And I said, yeah, they'll say they're in the military or on an oil rig. They'll come up with some kind of emergency where they need money. And she said, well, yeah, but this guy I've been talking to for a long time, and he hasn't asked me for money before, but he's over in Syria and he got shot in the hand.
Nate tried to reason with her and had some really good points.
I said, okay, first of all, the general is nowhere near where the fighting's happening. I said, which general is it? She said, oh, it's General Mark Milley. I'm like, oh, the guy on TV? He's not in Syria. He's always on TV talking from the Pentagon. That still didn't get through to her. I'd say, look, I'll send you a YouTube link. And she'd ask them about it. And they'd say, well, that was pre-recorded. Oh, okay. And then I said, well, because they say his hand is fine, isn't it? Last Thursday it was fine. And she'd go, well, he said it's pre-recorded. And I got so sick of her saying, well, he said, and I'm like, yeah, what he says, just write it off. But you can't, can you? Then they said, oh, that could be my body double. I have a body double for security. I'm like, oh God. We're going to, there's nothing that's going to convince her. And really, I don't think anything along the way did until, I'm not sure that she's done now, but I think she might be. You know how it is.
Yes.
Okay. You're never sure that they're done just because of how many times you get faked out and they lie. It got to the point where the townhouse she rented, she was about to become evicted, and the vehicle that she leases, she was about to get it repoed, and her utility bills were shut down. Just her electricity was still on. If she would have owned her home and not rented a townhouse, that had been gone. If she owned her vehicle and didn't lease it, that had been gone. So she really got lucky that she only lost about $56,000 that we could figure out, or that we could find. My daughter is She loves digging into all that stuff and adding it up and going through all the messages. She's got a lot of screenshots of the stuff.
Families just going through this for the first time will often tell me, oh, the money's gone, nothing left to give. Well, I hate to tell you, the jig isn't up.
They did try to get her other ways too, not just, I'm in an emergency and I need you to send money. There was a lot of that, but there was also some recovery scam attempts. I have some fake checks here that they would send her. They must have asked for access to her bank account. I don't ever know because she won't ever tell me the truth. I can only guess. But when she said she had a check coming in from them, I had to work ahead of her, call her bank and say, okay, I know you can't talk to me about this, but my mom is one of your clients and she's about to get a fake check. Do not cash that check. Do not deposit that check. It's going to bounce. I believe these scammers are going to either get into her account and clean it out before it comes back. Or what they do is they say, take what you need or what I owe you and then send me the rest. And that could have been what happened. I don't know. I never got a straight answer from her on it.
So describe the frustration that you went through when you were going through this with your mom.
Oh, man. Telling me what I wanted to hear, telling everybody what they wanted to hear. Like, oh, I'm done. Yeah, I'm so done. And then a day or two later, finding, I would have to go to her iPad and ambush. Like I would have to grab it quick, pull it up on there and go through her emails and say, well, I see you're not done, are you, Mom? She'd say, oh, I'm trying to get my money back.
Oh, my mom said the same thing.
Mm-hmm. Oh, did she? Mm-hmm. Just an excuse. Mm-hmm. There's no game plan to get your money back. I said, they're not going to give you any way to get your money back. They do this for a living.
My mom, the way she explained it to me basically was she was going to outsmart them and get her money back after she'd been duped. I'm like, okay, obviously you're not smart enough get your money back because you gave your money away in the first place.
Same thing. And then, she'd be like, well, I'm wiser now. And I'm like, no, Mom, they're going to eat you alive. And they're going to get more money from you.
I think our mothers just became addicted to the attention. They knew they weren't going to get their money back.
That is true. But I think toward the end, she really still believed it was that general, because there was a time toward the end of that, or I hesitate to say end, and you know why, but there was a time toward, I'll call it the end, where she just about got, lost her living space and her vehicle, and where he said, well, I'm back in the United States now. I'm down in Florida. I said, well, that's great. Why doesn't he finally call you then? And she's like, oh, why didn't you, why aren't you calling me? And he's like, well, instead I'm flying there. Oh, okay. Yeah, whatever. I said, first of all, you know what's going to happen? He's not going to show up, and there's going to be something like an emergency where he needs more money, because like, instead of showing up, something weird's going to happen and he's going to need money for it. And sure enough, he said, "Oh, the plane crashed. I'm in the hospital in, or was it Missouri?" And I'm like, "Oh, yeah, he survived a plane crash. I wonder how many times that's happened." And what did she do? I actually looking through her emails, found that she called the hospital that he said he was at looking for him. Good God, he's not there. It's not him.
So then you contacted, was it Social Catfish you contacted to talk to?
I did.
Okay. I watched that video. That's really interesting video. Tell us how that went.
It went pretty well, except we couldn't really get her to cooperate very well and send over a lot of information. So there's not a lot they could have done with it. They were relying on pretty much me to do all the actual legwork. This is part of the problem as to why the crime stats aren't recorded nearly to the level that they need to be as far as dollar amounts, because there's a lot to go through when you're looking at messages. There's 2,000 here, 5,000 there, 700 here, and no law enforcement agency wants to go and dig through all of that like it's a big investigation in order to just say, well, you're just a stat, because we're not ever going to be able to get your money back. And that is exactly why, I know, because I came from that field, that's exactly why the crime stats on this are very underreported. Because yes, a lot of people don't report it. They're embarrassed. But also, even if they do, this happens over a long period of time. Nobody's going to go through and add up and be able to prove. You have to also have to verify that indeed that money was sent somehow. And there's only so many hours a day and so many officers. They're not going to, it's just impractical to dig through all of this stuff when these people are never getting their money back. And our FBI has been pretty much worthless. She did also have a person she was talking to who claimed to be the general's agent. He went by Bell Red. She talked to him on the phone. And this was to give him or to give her the idea that he was legitimate. So this guy actually sounded like an American, apparently. I didn't talk to him, but she did. She said there was no accent at all. He could have been out of New York. The fake checks that came in were postmarked from Jamaica, Queens, New York. That could have been from him. I think he managed the mules. I think he was at the manager level. So there were mules that she'd send her money to all over the country.
If you're new to the podcast, a money mule is someone who usually starts as a victim and ends up helping the scammer by money laundering for them. They're now getting arrested, though. One of the biggest cases is just an hour from me, and it made national news.
And when I did find out who they were, I said, I would call their local law enforcement agencies, and they'd go through the whole, well, didn't you tell yes, we have talked to our local agency, and yes, it's not them contacting you, but I used to do the same stuff you do. I'm just letting you know that there's a money mule in your town, and this is his or her name, and just to give you a heads up. Well, there was one time though that there was a good detective down in Florida. So this is early on in the case. So after my mom told me, after I said these guys are scammers, she's like, "Oh, well, good. They can't fool me." I'm like, "Mom, they did fool you."
Mm-hmm.
She said, "Well, I guess I know better now. I've seen the light." No, she hadn't even come close, of course. And she's like, "Well, can you not tell your sisters?" And of course, I made good on that at that point. I said, "Well, yeah, if you're stopping this, then it's over, and I'm not going to talk to my sisters about it." But then when I got a call from a detective down in Florida, and he said, "Well, your mother was sending money to romance scammers to a money mule down here in Florida, and FedEx found the package full of cash coming through their screening process."
Oh,
yeah, and so and it was like $1,500. It wasn't one of her bigger contributions, but the scammer would actually have her take pictures of the cash and send it to him before she put it in the box.
what was the point of that?
Keep the money mules honest, I guess. That's the only thing I can think of.
Yeah. Okay. Yep.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so this detective's like, I understand you used to work for the sheriff's department up where you live. And so he's like, well, she needs a lot of help with this. And I found that intervening with family is the best way to deal with this. They're the best helpers in this, that law enforcement agencies can tell them whatever they want. But I have to say, even family is not effective and not very effective in my case. Nothing is.
I get so frustrated because so many people reach out to me saying, "How can I get my family member to stop?" And I just can't. There isn't an answer. There's no answer.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it would have taken. I often wonder if social catfish were able to send a tracking link to this person and it showed up as Lagos, Nigeria, or something like that. That might have helped her.
But the video on social catfish, they had hard evidence that they presented to your mom, and it still didn't convince her.
No, nothing convinces her. There are comments on there that say, "Well, why didn't you just do a quick Google search? You would have found he was married." I did that. She said, "No, he said he's divorced or he's getting divorced and not to believe what I read online." Of course he did. So another trick that I tried to get these people to go off script, to show their bad English a little more, rather than just these scripted responses. I got them to to break character. How I did that was I figured they were black acts because they had a lot of how do I say it? They had some good technology, some photoshopping skills, and some video editing skills. I mean, they had it seemed they had a good network of people who were awake at all times of day.
For people who don't know Black Axe, describe Black Axe.
It started as a fraternity, I guess, in the 70s in Nigeria among the more educated. And it turned into like an activist group against Europeans who were coming into Africa and taking resources and oppressing people, things like that. Then it just kind of morphed into pretty much a cult. It's become a cult. They consult witch doctors when they're scamming people and all this weird stuff.
So the next part Nate is going to describe is controversial. The ugliest review I've ever gotten on this podcast is what he's about to cover. Here's the deal. It's important to cover so you can see what the scumbags are up to and the state of the mind of the victim. You may believe it or not. I report the facts, and the facts are that this group uses whatever you might call this, depending on your beliefs. Google the videos, and they are all over the internet. I'll let Nate describe what his mom says she experienced. Those are the facts, what she says she experienced, right? I'm not here to argue about religion. That's a different podcast.
Actually, she ended up with sleep paralysis after this. I mean, there's a supernatural, and I don't think it was just because of trauma. I'm not sure that all the witch doctor stuff is just 100% BS. I mean, I believe in the devil, so she said that she'd wake up, couldn't move, and there was this guy looked like a cloaked man standing in the corner that was blacker than the darkness of the room, and he would just stare at her, and she couldn't move, and it would go on for, she'd say, like 15 minutes. And I'm like, well, I said, I mean, yeah, it could be psychological, it could be something, but at the same time, I'm like, well, yeah, you just don't know.
Yeah,
don't know.
Can't prove or disprove. Yeah.
Yep, don't know. But
okay, so back to you got him to go.
So I got him off script by saying that Black Axe. I said, well, from what I understand from Black Axe that's a gay swingers group, isn't it? I said, you guys are band together to, because gay people are oppressed down there. When you're talking about if they were from Europe or the United States or something like that, they'd just be like, well, no, dude. I mean, you can go ahead and believe that, but that isn't true. But you get a non-Western culture and they're like, how dare you? And I knew that. So I used that little card. They came back madder than a hornet. And one of the sentences was, you are the gay.
You are the gay.
You are the gay. And I said, so Mom, let's take a look at this here. Would anybody who uses English as their first language say you are the gay, or a general for that matter?
Yeah, generals talk like that.
Yeah, generals talk like that. Or maybe is there, this somebody from West Africa talking to you? Because it sounds like somebody maybe from West Africa or, somebody who doesn't know English very well. And I said, I did this to get them away from scripted responses, and it worked. See, the actual scammers, they have a good game plan, but they're not, and they're kind of street smart, but in a lot of ways, they're really dumb, just dumb. I can't remember all the examples of it, but I remember looking at it, and it's like, it's a good thing they're so brainwashed by the time they get their hooks in, because some of the things they say are so stupid. By the way, I didn't know if you knew this, but actually China is behind the Nigerian romance scammers and behind the Indian phone scammers. So I learned this on Scammer Payback on YouTube. I was listening to it one time, and the guy goes by the name Pierogi on there who hacks the Indian phone scammers. One of the Indian phone scammers who he caught confessed to a lot of things and was, begging for him not to turn him in or whatever. And he said, yeah, that China is behind the scams here and the ones in Nigeria. And it seems like it's an attempt to, they're competing with us economically.
Yeah, they want to bankrupt us.
How do you knock out your competition when they say that, oh, this is because you oppressed us? Well, when they go after Black Americans, that kind of throws that out the window now, doesn't it? I actually also told her ahead of time, I said, when you run out of money, like you're starting to do now, they're going to ask they're going to have you send a picture of your ID, and they're going to ask for your social security number. Do not send those things. I said, that's so they can open lines of credit under your name. Of course, it would be difficult to open lines of credit under her name because she had so many payday loans opened up, and she had to go back to work too.
Oh no!
Yeah, she's, I think, turning 76 here pretty soon. She's working home care. Yeah, I know, it's crazy. But so after I told her that, about 2 weeks later, what does she do? Sends them a picture of her ID, social security card, and her passport.
Mm.
I'm like, Mom, why the hell? After we just talked about this, did you do that? It's like you have zero control. You're in a runaway train. There's no steering wheel. You can do nothing. And I don't know if you ever got this from your mom, but when I would present certain proof to her, certain things that were hard to explain that would be nearly impossible to be true, she would get this lost in space blank look on her face and then just really have no answer and then just go right back to it after that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's like, how do you explain that, Mom? And then just, yeah, like she's high or something.
Yeah, it's like, I don't know, she just shut down because she couldn't come up
Yeah.
with a response or what?
Just nothing. And it was weird. My daughters would even get frustrated. They'd be like, trying to talk to Grandma, it's like talking to a rock. I said, yeah, that's what I've been dealing with for a long time, trying to talk to her. And I don't even know if concrete proof would be enough. I think we need to stop this at the Facebook and dating site and all that level. Facebook, if you ask me, I think they're complicit. I think they know what's happening and they don't care.
Yeah, because you can go on there and look up pages. They've got their whole plans on Facebook. You can go to the Yahoo Boys pages and there it is. Everything you need to know on how to scam people.
Yeah, I believe it's because, China has a lot of influence in Silicon Valley. So I think there's some dirty ties there. I don't think it's because Zuckerberg's wife is Chinese or anything like that, but well, you never know. But I just think that they have certain influence on these companies, and these are companies who could afford the technology
Yep.
and have the resources and the know-how to be able to track all of these people, to be able to do a lot more than what they did. If you really look at the corporate media in UK, in Canada, and in Australia, they've been doing stories, big stories on this for a long time, and a lot of them.
Yes.
Our media,
Mm-mm.
almost dead silent.
Finally, they've just started. I was on NBC yesterday.
You were?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So, but that's the first major network that's reached out to me.
Wow. A lot more needs to be done in that regard. And it's almost too little too late in the sense that now they're going to be using AI with deep fakes, and they're going to be, well, no, I saw him. I video chatted with him, but this guy never called, obviously. He'd have to imitate the, Mark Milley's voice. And there was one fake attempt at a video chat where she said, no, he video chat. He tried to, but the connection out in Syria isn't very good. Well, she said that all she could see was his camouflage jacket and couldn't see his face.
Yeah.
Like, of course. I said, Mom, that's so dumb. This is scammer 101 stuff.
So sextortion cases are on the rise with romance scams. Did your mom ever do any of that?
Nope.
Oh, thank God.
Thankfully. No. In fact, they would talk to her like frat boys, probably because they were the age of frat boys. And what would she do? Come back, oh, I love you. And it would be totally like, you guys don't get it. Do you not realize that she's a 73 at the time year old woman, and you're talking to her like she's in a sorority and you're in a frat? And what? Like, you guys still don't get it, probably because you're too young and you don't realize it. She's all about the emotional aspect of it, and you're all about this other stuff. She had 2 Ziploc bags full of gift cards. She did fall for a fake Elon Musk. For one thing you have to understand is my mom was always at birthdays and Christmas and whatever. Well, I'm on a fixed income. I don't have a whole lot of money, but I did get you something. And hey, I'm not going to say that, I don't appreciate her getting my daughters some Christmas or birthday presents. Okay. Yeah. But it would be something very low cost. Well, when she meets this fake Elon Musk profile on Facebook, and supposedly his kids message her and say that they need $150 in iTunes gift cards, she doesn't hesitate. And it's like, Mom, you realize he's the wealthiest person in the world, right? It would be nothing for him. It would be less for him to fly somebody to, because they said they were in some other country at the time. We don't have access to our dad right now. We're in another country. He could fly a courier out there on a private jet and hand them gift cards. And it would still be less for him to do that than it is for you to send $150 in gift cards.
So what's your theory on why were our mothers thinking like this? I mean, my mom was a smart woman. She was a vice president of a third-party administrator insurance company for years, very career-oriented. She wasn't stupid. So what happens?
My mom was very similar. She was an A student throughout college. She got her master's degree. She was the head of the dental program at one of the local technical colleges. So not quite, a vice president of a bank, but I mean, she had a good career where it required her to use her brain. But I think for one, retirement is like zero gravity for the brain. And two, we live in such a fast-paced society where when you're in business, especially, or you're in some sort of career, you don't have time to sit. Your mind is not dialed into being lied to or scammed. You just have to get the information flowing. Okay, this person says this. If this is the case, I pass it on to this person. You don't stop to think, well, maybe they're lying. Now, in law enforcement, it's a lot different. People are lying to you all the time.
Oh, yeah.
But in business or what they're doing, people generally have no reason to lie, or you have people who separately deal with the lies, like loss prevention or something like that. So I think between those two things, and I think my mom has some codependent tendencies.
Mine too. Absolutely.
Yes. Okay. Yep. Codependent and finds a narcissist. Mm-hmm. So narcissist tactics really work very well with her. That's why that's what she's attracted to. We've known that for a long time. So something must have happened. My grandparents were lovely people, her parents, but maybe when they were younger, maybe my grandpa coming home from the war had some PTSD issues. I don't know, but something was weird with that. And I think it comes down to, being sort of a codependent, and they can feel those people out. They know who's just through trying to ask them for something. I mean, you get somebody who's not a codependent, they're going to tell you to take a long walk off a short pier in Lagos.
So I heard from Nate after the interview. He said, looks like my mom isn't done sending the scammers money. She's back at it again. This time, another fake Elon Musk got her to send $500 to, quote, invest, end quote. So Elon is used a lot. Even when family members say he has all the money in the world, he doesn't need your money, it still does not convince a romance scam victim. They don't believe it. It's frustrating. If you have a story you'd like to share, email me at scammerstoriespodcast@gmail.com. Until next time, Scammer Warriors.